Having just replayed the first game in the Amnesia series, I can honestly say that it's better than I remember. The scares, the story, everything but the ending worked for me, and it holds up remarkably well even though it's at this point a 15-year-old title. So coming off the high of that, I was intrigued to replay the expansion to that game that came out a year later, entitled Amnesia Justine. An expansion that I don't remember in the slightest, even though I must have gone through it because I have the platinum. Does that bode well? Is that an ill omen? Who knows? But I'm gonna pop some popcorn, check it out regardless. We open to our protagonist trapped in a cell with a monstrous man leering in. The brute walking away as we slowly regain our composure and play a phonograph to obtain our trusty lantern. We're not beating around the bush this time. Get your ass up, try not to die to the gruesome monsters. Come on, clock's ticking. The phonograph introduces itself as the founder of this feast, but gives no names, welcoming us to her cabinet of perturbation, which sounds like a mixture of pervert and masturbation, but I'm going to assume it is not.
Just remember, they can all be saved. There is always a way.
She tells us that we're basically judge, jury, and executioner here. I don't feel super qualified for that, but the door's open, so we'll give her a shot. Heading down the hallway outside our prison door, leading us to even more cells, one of them housing the same creepy man who watched us pass out. I think we'll just go ahead and not deal with it. Then, wait a minute. Is that an actual person?
Help me! Please, help me!
Wow. I mean, he's no Agrippa, but at least he's wearing pants, and that puts him above Alexander in my book. Unfortunately, the fear of Wheelhead coming back and not really paying enough attention to the phonograph speech results in my trying to fiddle the door open with the handle on the wall and impaling him. But, hey, door's open, so I guess we're good here. If you're not really familiar with this expansion, this whole saving people mechanic is kind of the crux of the narrative. We're going to have 3 encounters with people who can be saved, and how you deal with them has a minor impact on the ending. The first man's name is Dr. Victor Fournier. I'm going to butcher these names because I am not French, and we could have saved him by stacking boxes and putting a ladder up instead of giving him a chest crater. But, you know, didn't do that. Walking through a little crawl space, we find our way out into a hallway before stumbling across a library. Bunch of books here, all in French I'm sure, so no use to you. More importantly though is what looks like some kind of ballot box with a man on the other side. This man is Father David, and if the picture on the wall is any indication, looks like he might not be having the most pleasant of days. Again, you can choose to save him by putting the correct combination of slides into the box or pulling the lever. Those slides being 4 on top and 3 on bottom. But I've already killed one guy, and I'm not exactly hung up on the details. Two corpses in, and I'm feeling pretty good. This expansion's been a little lighter on the monsters than the first, but maybe it's a philosophical thing. I'm the monster. Unfortunately, the good times don't roll for much longer as we head into this basement's basement and encounter another wheel-headed demon. These things are known as suitors, since they are the former lovers of Justine Florbel. Justine being the person who's throwing this little shindig. They're out for blood, and this is the first time they pose a true threat. Luckily, this suitor named Basile is slow, and we manage to slip past him with barely a worry, leading us into a dungeon. The place is flooded. I'd assumed every French home would have had a French drain, but obviously I am mistaken. Searching around the area, we find a handle, and placing it into the slot, we open the door to find another suitor breathing down our neck. This one, Malo, isn't quite as passive as the other two and comes in hot. I, of course, panic. I don't know what the hell I'm doing, and he hunts me down and slaughters me up nice. One of the most prominent features of Justine is that there's no save function. You die, you start from the beginning. It's not a huge deal because I've not been playing for that long, but if you don't learn some lessons, you might rack up quite the time sink. And of course, I learned no lessons. Luckily, after another trip around the slaughter mill, I inspected the door a little closer and saw another handle on the opposite side. Pulling it, buying some time while I fixed a generator, just as Malo was breaking through the solid metal. However, in the next room, I attempted to alleviate my guilt over killing the other two unfortunate souls, and yeah, being the good guy is costly. Starting to think that I just might not do so well in water. Anyway, making it back through once more, I managed to get the timing down, saving the final man, who is Investigator Marat, before fleeing down a long hallway from Malo. This chase leading us into the crypt, where it seems that Justine buries the corpses. There are a couple of things to inspect around here before we get the final message from our host.
The star-shaped soapstone stained by his blood fell to the floor with a sonorous thud. Blame me not, for I was but a child. With careful ambition, I dare to smile. Rest in peace, Papa.
Maybe that's a good poem. Maybe it's not. Not exactly a linguist. It would seem that we've defeated the trial, heading down a hallway of red words that make us insane for some reason, before coming into another room with slowly encroaching walls. Justine giving us another final message over a phonograph as we try to stop the closing room to no avail. Stress and panic setting in as our character passes out, leaving us to our inevitable fate. However, for some reason, the sweet release of death never comes. The walls receding as our character instead just stands up.
This was the best one yet. So elaborate. It's just too much.
Yep, we were the villain the entire time. We are Justine, testing ourselves for funsies, I guess. The expansion ending as we ascend out of the basement to a pleasant conversation with our maid. Not really much of an ending. I'm sure it has some kind of thematic relevance, but I'm not smart enough to understand it. Also, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do with the rest of this popcorn now. From what information we get about Justine during the game, she was born into a wealthy family in the 19th century, with her mother dying in childbirth. Her father was a psychologist who was so dedicated to his craft that he would decide to raise his daughter as a kind of case study, often testing her in various ways, to the point that she saw her value by means of how she performed on these tests. However, no matter how she performed, her father would always act with a callous indifference, Justine acting more and more erratic as she aged to try and get a rise out of her father, who refused to give her the satisfaction so as not to upset his theorems, I guess. Layman's terms, Papa Floorbell was kind of a dick. Not only that, but whatever he'd been trying to prove failed because she just decided to kill him and inherit all his wealth and privilege once she came of age.
Father never knew me. He thought he did, but then he was frightened. And nothing was ever the same again. I can still see him, lying there on the floor. He looked so surprised.
With her father gone, Justine would become even more deranged in her freedom. Despite her insanity though, she was still a beautiful and wealthy young woman, so suitors would come seeking her for courtship. Poor, unfortunate bastards. The three that we know about being Malo, Bastille, and Alois, whom she would toy around with before ultimately torturing and adding them as obstacles to her cabinet of perturbation. They've all got backstories and all seem to know Justine was a bit loopy, but probably didn't understand the depths of her depravity. Alois is the most infatuated with Justine, to the point that he would cut himself for her pleasure and still loves her despite all she's done to him. Malo was a very talented violinist whom Justine would humiliate before ultimately disfiguring, and Bastille is suggested to be a carpenter, who we get to hear getting turned into a suitor during a hidden phonograph recording.
Ah! My eyes! What have you done to my eyes? Justine! This isn't funny! You've blinded me!
Ha ha! Can't catch me now!
I'll kill you, you whore!
The suitors are probably the most captivating thing for me about this game, certainly the most memorable. The design is nice and distinct, and I may even prefer it to the gatherers from the base game. Unfortunately, that's about all that's improved. You may have noticed I didn't have much to say about the gameplay, and that's because there's really nothing to say. This game is Amnesia with basically less features. You get a lantern, never use it. You find tinder boxes. They're completely unnecessary. The health mechanic returns, you die in one hit. Insanity returns, makes no difference. The game is too short to truly utilize any new mechanics, and so really all you need to know is run and interact. It's unfortunately entirely forgettable, hence why I don't even remember playing it. But it's not like it was bad or anything, just a piece of content that they gave away as a bonus to people who bought the base game, which is always pretty cool. Sweeten the pot. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, all that YouTube stuff. Thank you all for watching. Hope to see you in the next one.